What's a rule that was implemented somewhere that massively backfired? My work has an infraction system. If you're a minute late, that's half a point. If you're up to 4 hours late, that's half a point. So if you're going to be a minute late, you might as well be 4 hours late because it's the same penalty. Oh man, another red light. Well, guess I'm going home. I'll just come back in a few hours. English law in Wales set the death penalty for stealing a sheep. So Welshmen who were caught stealing sheep would claim to be making love to them. They would get a lesser penalty for bestiality. The consequence of this is that Welshmen gained a reputation of sheep shaggers. Hey, are you stealing my sheep? No, I was going to marry it. Oh, okay, we'll carry on then. My institute banned porn sites in its Wi-Fi. Most people weren't tech-savvy enough or bold enough to ask how to bypass it. Then the institute banned Facebook. Everyone learned how to use proxy in a matter of days. Let's just say the servers were under heavy pressure then onwards. I guess I've never really thought about that. When you give people more of an incentive to break down your barriers, then they're gonna break down more barriers than you were prepared for. A famous example from Freakonomics was when a daycare started charging a small fine for parents who picked up their children late. Instead of resulting in more on-time arrivals, the new policy actually caused more late pickups. This is because the parents were originally worried that late pickup would be a significant burden on the daycare employees, but because the fine was so small, only a few dollars, they decided that it must not be a big inconvenience for the daycare. Yeah, I actually heard about that exact study too. Apparently a lot of the parents, they felt bad about showing up late normally, but once they had to pay if they were late, then it just became a different incentive of like, oh, well, I don't feel bad now because now I'm paying for the opportunity of being late. The infamous Barbados versus Grenada soccer match. The organizers of the 1994 Caribbean Tournament Cup had a rather odd change to the rules for extra time. If the game was still a draw at full time, it would go to extra time, but the first goal scored would win. I mean, this is perfectly normal, the golden rule, but what was different is that they ruled that winning this way would count as having won by 2 goals for the purpose of tournament qualification, instead of just 1. So Barbados went into the match against Grenada needing 2 goals to qualify for the main tournament. If they lost, or won by only 1 goal, Grenada would qualify instead. Under the regular rule, this would mean that if a match went to extra time, there would be basically no point to Barbados playing because even if they scored, they would only win by 1 goal, and not qualify. But the 2-point rule would motivate them to play on. Sound good? Well, you might be able to guess what happened. The match looked like it was about to end with Barbados 2-1 Grenada, a win for Barbados, but not the 2 goals they needed. So Barbados deliberately scored an own goal in the last few minutes of the match, making the score 2-2. Hoping to trigger extra time and chance to score the magic 2-value goal. The Grenada players quickly realized they could do the same, score an own goal to make the match 3-2 to Barbados, which would have Barbados winning by only 1 goal, so Grenada would qualify. But the Barbados players realized that too, and so they began to defend Grenada's goals. So for the last 7 minutes of the match, Grenada were trying to score a goal in either net, since scoring a goal against Barbados would give them 3-2, and they would win the match. And scoring in their own goal would make it 3-2 to Barbados, so they would lose the match but win the qualification, and Barbados were defending both. Amazingly, Barbados did actually manage to do so, successfully defending themselves while half of their team were defending Grenada's goal against Grenada, and then scored the golden goal in the extra time and qualified. Wow, they're actually inventing a whole new sport here with this tiny little rule change. Alcohol bans at college football games has led to increased intoxication problems, because fans are loading up before going in the stadium. Yeah, it is kind of funny. You can ban them for bringing containers full of alcohol, but you cannot ban them from carrying alcohol in their own stomach. I worked at Macy's one Christmas and found out the reason why you can never find anyone at the register is because they don't allow employees to stand at the register because it's intimidating. I can't tell you how many times I gave up trying to purchase something there because I couldn't find anyone to ring me up. Yeah, I've kind of been in the same boat when you're at big stores like that, and you're just like, well, if you guys aren't gonna actually do what we came here for you to do, then I guess I'll just leave. The problem is the managers that are just so crazy about making sure that their employees are always doing something. They can't just be standing around. Last summer in Sweden, bus drivers in some counties started wearing shorts due to the heat wave. After being denied to continue doing so by management, they started wearing skirts instead. The dress code policies have banned shorts, but not skirts. Hey, whatever keeps you from overheating, I guess. The British government was concerned about the number of venomous cobra snakes in Delhi. The government therefore offered bounty for every dead cobra. Initially, this was a successful strategy, as large numbers of snakes were killed for the reward. Eventually, however, enterprising people began to breed cobras for the income. When the government became aware of this, the reward program was scrapped, causing the cobra breeders to set the now worthless snakes free. As a result, the wild cobra population further increased. The apparent solution for the problem made the situation even worse. Yeah, I've definitely found that if you ever give some sort of money incentive for anything, some people out there will find a way to make it into a business. I kind of figured that out back in the day when people learned you could sell WoW gold for real money, and so tons of people just found out how to turn that into a business. Dry counties were meant to reduce use of alcohol in certain areas, but they result in people who want to get drunk driving further away from home to do so, increasing the odds and frequency of drunk driving accidents. Also, many attempt to rescind dry county laws end up getting countered by campaigns paid for by the bars and liquor stores that set up on the edge of dry counties, typically under the guise of religious messages. You know, I can kind of relate to this one because here in Salt Lake City, there's a lot of alcohol and gambling and fireworks that aren't really allowed here. So if you just drive an hour and a half east or west to either Evanston, Wyoming, or Wendover, Nevada, like those two little towns are supported almost entirely just off of people from Salt Lake that want to buy stuff that's not legal here. So if there was some talk of them changing the laws in Utah to legalize more stuff, I feel like both of those towns would really revolt against that. Washington State made it mandatory for schools to drop their room temperatures to save on electricity. The result? Teachers brought their own heaters into their offices, and the use of electricity increased. Yeah, those little space heaters do not do a great job of heating a whole building. Not sure if it's still the case, as I graduated many years ago, but when I went to college, the hospitals had a thing where if someone came in with alcohol poisoning, and they were underage, then they'd also call the cops. So of course what happened was, when underage kids really should have gone to the hospital, their friends wouldn't call the ambulance because of fear of the cops would punish people. Luckily, while I was there weren't many deaths due to alcohol poisoning, but there were more than 0. Yeah, that's kind of a tricky issue from every angle, so I'm just not even going to touch that. I worked somewhere with a clean desk policy on Friday afternoons. The common way round this was that everyone would just sweep all their paperwork into an envelope, stick it in the internal mail, and then it would arrive back on your desk on Monday morning. So essentially everyone was using the mail room as storage. And then the mailmen were the butlers that get to take it all back to you. At one point in history, the president of Paraguay tried to eliminate racism by making it illegal to marry someone within your own ethnic group. Needless to say, this was quite racist. Wow, the woke crowd should be giving this guy an award. That is on the next level. You have to eat whatever you touch, was a rule in my kindergarten, which led to all the children touching all the food to call dibs on it. I just imagine some kindergarten just diving onto a table full of food just to say, all of this is mine now. The head teacher at the school I worked made it a rule that the primary-aged kids, 5 to 11, weren't allowed to run when they were out in the playground. That was fun to try and enforce. Yeah, plus it's just like, if they can't run when they're on the playground, when can they run? I mean, you might as well just attach a ball and chain to them. Air pollution became a big problem in the late 80s and early 90s Athens, mostly due to a number of old, heavily polluting cars on the road. So the Greek government made a law where only cars with odd numbers, final digits on their number plates, could be driven on odd numbered days, and only even-numbered cars could drive on evenly numbered days. Sounds great, doesn't it? They'll half the number of cars on their roads, right? Nope, they doubled it. Everyone bought one old, highly polluting car that had an odd-numbered plate, and another with an even-numbered plate. Nobody could park, and the air was worse than before. I mean, alternatively, if you don't want to pay for 2 full cars, you could just pay for 2 different license plates. Middle school wanted to create a trash-free environment, so they removed the trash cans from the parking lots, halls, and cafeteria. They just told the kids to toss your trash when you get home or in a classroom. The amount of litter skyrocketed overnight. After a week or so, they brought back the cans. Oh man, what kind of ivory tower kind of mindset is that? It's like, I can't stand to look at garbage cans. I don't care if they're useful, I just want them out of my sight. Then the next day they're like, why is there all this trash on the ground? Why aren't people putting them in the... Oh. The previous school I worked at decided that all shirts needed to have the school name or emblem, which was a fancy letter E, on them to be dress code appropriate. That's all the handbook said. No clarification on how the name or emblem was designed, or the color, or if it had to be permanently affixed to the clothing. The students hated the policy, and being in high school, looked for any loophole possible. They found one due to the lack of clarity on the handbook policy. The kids would make paper E's and pin them to their shirts. Thus, they could wear whatever they wanted, and by pinning the E to the shirt, were still dress code compliant. I thought it was pretty genius. The administration did not. Come on, man, you're wearing a tank top and pajama pants to school? Oh, don't worry, it's got an E on it. Catholic school. The school started out not having a problem with Harry Potter. The library had every available book at the time. Some paranoid parent cried Satanism and witchcraft, so the school banned Harry Potter. Suddenly, Harry Potter books are an underground commodity. The school had a black market trade for new and used Harry Potter books, and things only got worse when expulsion was threatened for being caught with one. A new Harry Potter book was worth its weight in gold. Finally, the school had to go all the way to the bishop about Harry Potter books, and he said, "Nah, the books don't really teach Satanism. What's all this about a black market book trade?" So the school lifted the ban and told the parents to cool it. I always thought it was really funny when there's some very popular mainstream stuff that is so controversial. When parents are all freaking out over stuff like Metallica or Marilyn Manson being like way too edgy for the kids. When it's like, there's stuff that's like 10 times worse out there, but it just doesn't get nearly the same attention because it's just not as popular. A salon I worked at one day decided to drug test the hairstylists. Out of 12 stylists, 11 failed. The manager texted everybody the next day and told them to come to work. Yeah, threatening to fire people based on a rule doesn't really work when every single person is breaking that rule already. When I worked for immigration, some bright spark decided that we weren't going to remove people who had been caught smuggling drugs from certain countries. They believed it was too risky to deport people who had failed to complete their jobs back to pissed off gangs. News traveled quickly, and within a few weeks there was a huge spike in smuggling. People were smuggling drugs and immediately handing themselves over to authorities to guarantee that they wouldn't get deported. In addition, dealers found it much easier to convince people to attempt to smuggle drugs because it was a win-win for all parties. The whole idea was scrapped pretty quickly. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm beginning to think that the whole southern border is just kind of a lost cause at this point. When Domino's said all pizzas would be delivered in 30 minutes or less, your pizza was free. All the delivery drivers kept getting in car accidents to get you your pizza on time, so it wouldn't come out of their paycheck. It was a short-lived venture. Yeah, I've heard so many times, usually in like old movies or something, about like, oh man, 5 more minutes and the pizza would have been free. But that must have been a thing a long time ago because I have not seen any kind of rule like that in my lifetime. Not exactly a rule, but just last week my job thought it was a good idea to take away our electric cart pusher machine because they felt we didn't need it. The very next day, the place was absolutely packed and we couldn't get carts in fast enough. Yeah, you gotta love management that just doesn't understand what their employees do. In an attempt to discourage surfing during work hours in 50s Australia, the government brought into effect a law which stated that any man surfing before 5 p.m. would have to do so in a dress. This prompted more people than would usually be surfing during the daytime to don their wives' dresses and head down to the beach and surf for the couple of weeks the law existed. Man, what kind of government is so concerned about what people are doing during the day? Like, if I was in a place that came up with laws like this, I would break the law just for the sake of breaking it, even if I didn't want to. Only giving smokers breaks. Maybe it didn't backfire, but it sure didn't help anyone quitting cigarettes. You just have one employee on the back patio and everyone's ganging up on him like, "Hey, that's not a cigarette, that's candy." It's like, no, it's smoke, I swear, see? Casual Friday was implemented by a company that had long enforced a strict dress code policy. But soon employees began demanding that casual dress days be increased for at least one other day per week, plus holidays and their individual birthdays. Before long, casual dress became the new norm every day, and employees abused it by wearing clothes and footwear management thought to be inappropriate. Thus, the strict dress policy was reinstated. Not even Casual Friday was allowed. See, I've never really understood why a strict dress code is necessary at any time. I mean, if it's okay on a Friday that people aren't dressed up, then why is it not okay every day? I don't know, I'll just stick to being self-employed. Brazil in the 1980s had a massive debt problem, which they tried to solve by simply printing a bunch more money. Any economist worth their salt would have told Brazil that would cause massive inflation, and that's exactly what happened. People found their life savings were barely enough to buy groceries for a week. Sucks to be them, huh? Wonder what living with inflation's like. A buddy of mine told me about a happy hour promotion a bar ran close to his campus. Apparently the special was something stupid like 50-cent beers that lasted until the first person went to the bathroom. As he tells it, the first few weeks went without incident, but once it got more popular, people were going to extreme lengths to not be that guy, including wearing adult diapers. Once people tried to covertly pee in corners and trash cans, the bar canceled the promotion. See, funny enough, a rule like that maybe could work as long as you don't let anyone know what the rule is. But I hope you enjoyed all the backfiring stories. I guess one thing that sort of backfired was when YouTube decided, we want to remove the dislike count on YouTube because we don't want people sending dislike bombs to certain videos that they don't like. But then everybody just got an extension and now people want to do it even more. But that's all for today, so I will see you next time.